G'day. Have to do those onions tomorrow. We drop of rain was good. Save me watering the garden. trying to rain again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Pitter patter of raindrops. Hello, Carolyn. Good morning to you. I'm sure it's getting cooler where you are. Still quite cool here. It is 16 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is. 60 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm guessing. '70s today. 70s still a bit cold for us, but we'll get our warm days soon. Made a shepherd's pie, well, sort of a shepherd's pie, more of cottage pie. I got the leftovers from my beef spare ribs, which there was a fair bit, and then I got some more chuck steak, chopped it up real fine, added bits and pieces with it. It turned out to be absolutely delicious.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, congratulations. You found out your great grandbaby will be a girl. You know, you've been around a while when you use the word great grandmother. Oh, it sounds like you're 5,000 years old. I'm only kidding. We won't be too far away ourselves.
Yeah, go to bed over that. I have to be down by 9:30. Remember, Jackson's way in.
I'll take you there in the morning.
Oh, if it was nice weather, I was going to walk down with
No,
this like this.
I'll take you. I'll go to the shop. I don't know what we need, but we probably need milk, bits and pieces. What did you feel like tomorrow night? A broth of some sort? Soupy broth? You're a Gigi. A Gigi. We've got 10 grandkids. And some are, I'm trying to think how old Ethan is. He must be getting close to 15, 16.
No.
Yeah.
His first year of high school is 13.
14, he must be 14. Time flies by. We've got to rip out the red bunching onions tomorrow and the baby leeks, and I'll process them, Carolyn, by cleaning them up, chopping them small and chucking them in bags. You have 6 ranging from 26 to 12. No, it's good. I mean, as a grandparent, you don't get to see your grandchildren all of the time. That's not how it works. So like us, I'm sure when you do get to see them, good times. Yes, I'm going to process the onions out of the garden tomorrow. Bunching onions, I'll chop them up. Spring onions I've got as well, should do those as well. Yeah, it's the same here. We've got a daughter that needs more help. We get to see 4 of the grandkids quite a lot, and the others on occasions, because I live in a very big state. One of our kids lives in miles, probably 350 mile away. The son lives a couple hundred mile away. We get to see them on the end of this month. He's coming up, isn't he?
Yep.
So that'll be good. Might do a trip down south anyway, go through Mandurah. After he's been up here, we'll go down.
After.
Yeah, so we can make a trip and catch up with him again before the summer strikes. Just a few days trip down south would be nice. Take you down to Yellowknot Caves. Just kidding.
No.
You don't like caves, do you?
No.
It's all right. Spent a night in Mandurah. Where else would you like to go down there?
Anywhere down there.
Preston Beach.
Yeah, we stayed there once.
Yeah. It's only about another, 40, 50 minutes from Mandurah, isn't it? I think.
Can't remember. It was down further than what it actually said when I won the prize. I want to go to the Christmas shop in Mandurah. It's still open for 4
Oh, yeah, the German one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that. Actually, with those leeks, I could make a nice, if I get some lamb tomorrow, make leek and potato.
Yeah.
Sort of a soup. Nice. Good morning, VMAC.
Hey, chocolate buddy.
I'm pulling my baby leeks out tomorrow, VMAC, and processing them. Chop them up, clean them up, put them in the freezer. I might make a lentil soup with leeks, potatoes, carrots, pearl barley, nice broth. Quite cool here tonight, and a bit of rain. Never-ending winter. Not complaining. All the veggie gardens growing well here. I see VMAC at the back just foraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, cranberries, they grow them in Australia, but you've got to sort of pick them when they're sort of full and juicy. And then most of them are just dried in Australia. Not many people eat fresh cranberries. Thanksgiving, November. What is it, November 1?
Oh,
Someone's spinning their wheels. Good on them. I think Thanksgiving, it's not the same time as the US, I think it's different. Same month, just different days. is in a bog. Well, they've got plenty of moisture. Mind you, is this Monday? Oh, okay, so it's October. I kept thinking Thanksgiving in the US is November. I know it was different in Canada. So you're going to do the turkey, mashed potato. Do you do the pumpkin thingy, pumpkin pie, greens? Yeah, you can't really buy fresh cranberries in Australia. They're all dried, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is fine. But we don't do Thanksgiving. We don't cook turkey. Rare. You go to someone's place and they'll have turkey. Not even Christmas. Mainly because I always used to do barbecues. Always in October, okay? Do you do anything for Halloween? We've only been here the year and a bit, and we've only had one Halloween here. But we've got about 30 kids rock up. So I think we'll have more this year. Like cranberry cakes and muffins. Sounds good. I like cranberries. I like cranberry juice. I reckon we'll get about 50 kids this year, I reckon.
Yeah.
Easy. We'll do a little bit of decorating. It should be a stat. We just do it so the kids have fun. There's no connotations of evil or nothing like that. You have an adult Halloween. No, we don't do that, do we?
What's that?
An adult Halloween.
Oh, there is an adult party somewhere.
Yeah, but we don't normally go.
No, because we're not invited.
Yeah, no one invites us. Maybe
That's
VMAC will
why.
invite us.
We're not invited.
Hello, Munchie G. Is that all the lights were on the other night? Here? We got lots of solar lights, if that's what you mean. I don't know if you'll pick it up. But we've got loads of solar lights. And you can walk out when you walk past the sensor. But we got tons of them. Even at the front. And then we've got the front fence lights. Putting that back in. Oops. I don't know. I put that in right, did I? Sometimes it doesn't make a ding-ding noise. I don't know. I like horror movies because I laugh at them. My wife doesn't like them. I think they're supposed to make you laugh, not fear, because they're absurdities. I don't know how Halloween's going to go in parts of the world this year. We don't have any issues here. where we live in our state, but I'm sure other countries have problems. I don't think I'd send my kids out in the US to go getting candy. You don't know what they'll bring home. How long does it take your breath back after aspirating? Well, I don't aspirate as a habit, Monchichi. How long does it take you? Big word of the day, aspiration. Good morning, sir. Are you aspirating? No, I just don't feel well. Okay. What's wrong with you? You know, my staff have got the virus because they don't wear a mask. And I'm a knobhead. Yes. It's funny, in the past, when I did used to watch him, he'd have a word of the week. Like he'd say one week, he'd say, everything here is superfluous. It's superfluous, yes. And I think it's superfluous. And he'd just repeat it 15 times. And then he used the word, I find it very obnoxious. Like he'd find a word, like someone would look at a crossword in the morning, but he'd use that word for about an hour, not really knowing what it meant. Maybe he used it over 100 times. Well, the old story about aspiration, if you can get a paper bag, Monchichi, and you exhale and inhale, I think it's 30 seconds VMAC, isn't it? I think it's about 10 breaths. Yeah, you must pronounce it at least 100 times, as far as I remember. What's your name? Jimmy Stewart? Yes. A lot of people with anxiety will get that. A lot of people with a cold or a flu can get it. But if you get a paper bag and breathe in and out, I'm pretty sure there's a medical term for what it's doing to your body. It's a case of relax, don't panic. Yeah, it stops you hyperventilating by doing that. And the old story is breathe in through your nose, Monchichi, and breathe out through your mouth. Lungs feel like you inhaled fire, I would suggest you definitely go to the doctor. Certainly wouldn't be pleasant, I imagine. I wish you well, Monchichi, but I would certainly see a doctor just to cover yourself. little spinning happening. We actually contacted our internet provider because we've had drop out, drop in. Quite a lot of the hangouts I've done in the last few weeks have been terrible. So they're looking into it. We'll look into that, yeah, leave it with us. I think the most important debate will be happening tonight, US time. I think we're going to watch Kamala Harris decimate. There's a big word for the day. Are you there, Elbo? Decimate, which is an old Roman term of actually getting 1 in 10 soldiers and killing them. But I mean this in its literal sense, and that is, I think Kamala Harris will decimate Mike Pence. It'll be an embarrassment. She's quite clever when it comes to debating. But we'll see. You're not going to watch? I probably will watch because it thinks about 9 a.m. my time, so. I think it'd be like Dope Rope, I think. I think she'll lead him down the path and then thump him, metaphorically. But it's looking pretty certain now that America will change presidents. There's still some tough times coming up, but I know how I would prefer to be in power during tough times. Yeah, I understand the anomaly of polls and then the actual vote. I'm very well aware of that, but the margin in polls is staggering. So a margin of error usually is give or take 5%. And I think they're well past that threshold. America needs to come together. I remember the 60s and the riots and all the indignation of supremacist whites. Do you remember there was an old 1962 or 63 VMAC, and I'm not kidding, there was something like 10,000 people marching out in Washington from the Ku Klux Klan. I remember that to this day, and I've seen it a few times. 10,000 Ku Klux Klan, men and women, not just men. Want to keep America white. Oh. I'm pretty sure this is what I see as the obvious VMAC. Let's be brutal. Hillary Clinton was an awful candidate. Very bombastic, pretentious, I know it all. And Americans didn't like that. Australians didn't like her. So let's take her out of the equation. Joe Biden is a totally different bloke. He's amicable. He's quite a nice guy, by all reports. So you just swing him into the frame and then look at the handling of the coronavirus. it's pretty easy to see people either did not vote or couldn't be bothered in 2016. And I think they're bothered now. A lot of these people have buried loved ones. So I think you'll find that the swing is based on two things. One, I think a can of sardines could beat Trump. On the ballot, you go for a can of sardines or Trump. People go, I'll go to a can of sardines. So I think there's that mentality in people. And then there is the people who say, well, I didn't vote because I didn't think it mattered in 2016, but I'm going to vote this time. I think it's those voters that will do the swinging in a very major way. Yeah, it doesn't matter what we think, but it does matter to us, both of our countries. It matters. Relations between Australia and the US are very strained. There is no conversation going on. The only interaction we have with America at the moment is through Mike Pompeo, discussing a sort of treaty between Japan, Australia, the UK, US, and it's like there is no public relations going on between America and anyone else. So that's a bad thing. So it does matter to us, both of us, Canada and Australia. But, like I say, it's not up to us to vote. But we can certainly commentate on what we see, and the country is a mess. Yeah, and they vote over different terms, like 6 years, 3 years. Electoral college vote is weird. The popular vote doesn't mean a damn thing in the US. Doesn't mean anything in the US. I mean, if it worked on the popular vote, President Clinton would still be in power. Hillary, I'm talking about. She won, I think, 3 million more in the popular vote. That's right, and that's how I believe a political party, because the Prime Minister in Canada and Australia is accountable in the House. Do you know what I mean? The Senate in both our countries is the secondary tier, which looks at bills being passed and agrees or disagrees with them. But in the US, it doesn't work that way. Like, a president should not be a lawmaker. The lawmakers should be the lawmaker. This is where America's system falls down. You've got a president who can veto. Prime Minister Trudeau and Prime Minister Morrison cannot veto. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, I know, but in the Senate and in the House here, it's very similar to Canada. You've got to win in the House. You can lose the Senate. You can be Prime Minister because your party's won more in the House. You get them all the time. Votes of no confidence. They're always thrown up. It's the Westminster system, both yours and mine. But it doesn't allow the Prime Minister to carte blanche make laws. It doesn't work that way. There is no... I suppose if you say the Prime Minister is the executive branch, it is true to a very minority extent. He cannot send... President Trudeau can't say, we're going to introduce conscription. I'm making a executive order. No, wouldn't work in Canada, wouldn't work in Australia. Because based on the Westminster system, it's probably the truest form of democracy. I think yours is 4-year terms and ours is 4-year terms in the House. The Senate's different, 3 and 6 year terms. They have what they call a half Senate election, just like the US does. But our Prime Minister does not have executive powers. Yeah, you're always going to get that because a vote of no confidence can overturn the House under a Westminster policy system, like Canada is. You could then approach the Governor-General and ask to make the government into disillusionment because of the vote of no confidence. That's all that's for, but you know and I know it's basically just used as a political tool. I call upon the House a vote of no confidence against Mr Trudeau. Count the votes, black rod, close the doors, They count and they come back and say, nah, it's all good. Wasted half a day. Well, the Senate is unelected here. What it is, it goes by quotas in Canada and Australia. Give an example. Whatever party gets X amount of votes, gets X amount of quota. Hello, seal hater. So if they get X amount of votes, they might say, well, you've got 3.5 picks. If someone comes up with a different system and different numbers, well, that half pick disappears. Yep, only the House is selected. You don't have a Senate vote. It's based on quota. You vote for the Senate, but not for anybody in particular, just parties. So it's the House in your country and my country that are the lawmakers. The Senate is really oversight. So your Senate doesn't work like that. You're not just oversight. Because you'll have, like, say, there's always a mass of different people in the Senate. There can be independents, Green Party. We've got a shooters party in the Senate, Liberal, Labor, all different. Australia is very similar to the UK. And like it works on the ballot, you vote for whatever party you want to vote for, and you can put the numbers from 1 to 20, whatever candidates are there or parties, or you can just vote one in the party you want, and then they'll decide the preferences. But then you vote for the Senate ticket, which is virtually just counted in numbers, and then X amount of numbers equals a seat in the Senate. Yeah, Australia is very much similar to the UK, except we don't have lords sitting in the House coughing and huffing. But Australians are brutal to their politicians. No Prime Minister is loved in Australia. We elect them to do a job. That's it. There's no idolising. There's no pop group mentality when they give speeches. They're questioned all the time. And they're put under the grill all the time, as it should be. And Australians, when Scott Morrison went overseas for a holiday while Australia was burning, when he came back, he donned on like a emergency rescue suit and went down to the areas that got burnt. People just walking up to the Prime Minister saying, "You're a total wanker. Thanks for being on holiday while the country burned, you dickhead." This happened all the time. And no one gets arrested, nothing like that. Normally the Prime Minister just walks away quickly. So you're saying that Canada's a bit like selecting someone for the Supreme Court. They're nominated, I guess, and then selected. That's what you're saying, I think. See, in Australia and the UK, you can move from the Senate to the House. Let's say you're a very popular senator. Well, they might say, how about you go for a seat in the lower house and maybe you'll be elected Prime Minister, which has happened. So you can bounce from lower house to upper house here, just by changing seats. But irrespective of any Senate, it's the House where law is made or law is proposed. And it should be. They're the people that the people elect in Canada and Australia, in the lower house. That's what we do. We elect people we think can do the job. The Senate here merely looks at a bill and says, yep, that's good, we'll go with that. All right, well, we can do it here. It's virtually seen as an upper and lower house system in Australia, just like the UK. Like in time, and in your country, will be republics. That's what will happen. Well, like I say, the only bit that I wouldn't agree to is having a president who can veto everyone and just make executive orders. I do not agree with that at all. It should be the lower house. Yeah, it's good money, Leroy, that's for sure. Average politician in the lower house probably is on about 400,000 Australia. Senate's probably a bit better. But lower house should be the ones that make laws, not prime ministers, not presidents. We have state elections. Each state runs on a lower and upper house as well. That's how it works. I remember I used to play cricket with a local member. There was a member of the Parliament in Western Australia. His name was Jeff Carr. He must be about 90 if he's still alive now. And I remember being around his place and he was celebrating getting his third election win. And he was really excited. I said, well, you know, you're a bit overexcited, Jeff. You're bound to get it anyway. You're miles ahead in the polls. And he said, no, nothing to do with that. He said, now I'm guaranteed a pension for life. I said, you bastard, I've got to pay you for the rest of your life. He said, yep. 3 terms in Australia, you get a pension for life. 80% of the wage that you leave Parliament on. Plus you get what we call a gold ticket, which means you can go on any transport, any domestic plane, the government pays for it. You get a driver. These are the perks I would like to see disappear, personally. Of course, each of our country has these quandos where people go on junkets, take all their mates with them. So why did you go to Japan? Oh, we wanted to see how gymnastics was done in Japan. Oh, I see. So 40 of you went to Japan, first class, stayed in a 5-star hotel and watched 2 hours of a gymnastic. And what did you bring back from that? Oh, it's good. Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't know what the perfect system is. There isn't one as far as saying let's go be a republic or social democrat or what. There isn't a perfect system at all. There's still oligarchs. There's still this system where the rich get richer and the poor get stuck down in a hole. I haven't seen any political system which offers a way for a fair outcome. It's always balanced against the rich getting richer and the poor just staying poor. Pakistan, UK, run by UK. Not sure what that means. Pakistan's run by Imran Khan, another great cricketer. Yeah, that's the bit I don't like about politics. Why should, let's say, Leroy is a coal miner? He's not, but let's say he was a coal miner. works for 55 years down the mine, comes up, they shake his hand, give him a gold watch, and then he goes on a pension, the old age pension. Gets a bit of retirement money. Mind you, you can spend 6 years as a senator in Canada and get a pension for life. Some politicians are just total knobheads. They don't survive in Australian politics. People will always question politicians here, to their face, if need be. Don't worry about reporters. English rule most countries. No, they don't. They used to, but they don't. At best, the English Empire was 1/4 of the world, and that was at its peak. But I think it just basically owns a bit of its own country now. So I don't know of a system that I could put my finger on and say this is the perfect system. How? Independence, see you later. All these countries gained independence from the UK. So it's like Australia in 1901 become federated. All the states joined and they basically ruled themselves, not England. But they did have an empire at one stage. I hate to break this to you, see you later, but they don't now. Well, the English still were in the UK at this stage. We had a senator, I forget his name, but he was so irrelevant, that's why I can forget his name. He was caught several times sniffing the seats of female politicians' chairs, which I suppose is okay in its context, but he did it too often. And he got the royal boot as well. Went to state politics, didn't survive there either. There's some weird and wacky people in all parts of the working system. Hello, Danny. Listening while I work. But I think the debate tonight will be a massacre. Yes, it is gross, and thought so by members of his own party. They gave him an option. You can resign, or we're just going to kick you out. I think they kicked him out. I'm not doing anything wrong, just sniffing. Really? Do you think that's normal? Lots of politicians get caught with their hand in the candy jar, taking money from places they shouldn't, or backhanders. They get the boot. Some end up in jail in Australia, actually. So they should. What?
And I'm not actually in the room when you're live. It just looks so funny we're sitting here watching you as if you're talking to no one.
All right, I'll cancel the hangout then so I can talk to you.
No, I'm just saying, it just...
You're tired, aren't you? I can tell.
Yes.
I'll say hi to Danny from the wife because she's not saying hello at all.
No, I'm not in the room.
Yes, I think Kamala Harris will make a fine president in about 2 years' time. That's my prediction. Fancy that. Within 10 years, you've had a black president, male, and now you're going to have a black president, female. That's a good thing. Yeah, the wife's tired. I won't be on much longer myself. It's a beautiful night for sleeping. It's cool. It's been raining. Very unlikely weather for this time of year, but my garden loves it. So we're taking all the onions out tomorrow. Be planting celery, radish, and broccoli. You can be dismissed for improper behaviour in Australian politics. Don't need the party. Don't necessarily become independent, and then there's a separate election in that particular county or state for replacing that person, just as if someone died, if you like. I remember talking to my friend Jeff Carr, who was a teacher actually, not a lawyer, as a politician. But he said, the place is full of lawyers. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, in the parliament you go there and they're all bloody lawyers, all know-it-alls. And I said, well, if there were such good lawyers, why are they politicians? And he said, good point. They weren't that good as a lawyer, so they became a politician. And if you look at the US, you look at Canada, you look at Australia, yes, most of them are lawyers. They couldn't make it in the real world. And reporters in Australia are quite brutal. You'll get them ask a politician a question. You know how the politician might take a just fixed position and say, well, actually what I want to talk about is, and avoid the question. And usually the reporter said, mate, stop beating around the bush and just answer the bloody question. And they get a bit guffawed about that, like they want to play lawyer in front of reporters and the public say, I'm not having that. Just tell us what's going on. They can't change political parties during their elected term. They can become independents, and then in the next election they can switch parties. Because people who voted for you because of the party mainly. You happen to be an electorate and they voted for you. Sally Hayton needs a cigarette. Here, mate, have that one. There you go. Any MP can cross the floor for a vote, like if they have a certain, that's in their opinion that they don't agree with, and they do quite often in Australia, cross the floor in voting. They can't here, because the Constitution here says, if you're elected for a party, you can leave the party to be an independent during the term. My wife's on drugs, I think.
At the bed.
All right, I'll be in a sec too, I think.
Say good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Now you sit there talking to yourself. I'm just kidding.
You're making me sound like a fool. I'm talking to nobody, apparently. So hello, nobodies. How you going? Yeah, under our Constitution, you can't switch parties. You can become an independent during your term. And at the next election, you can have your allegiance go to whoever you damn well please, because the people elected you based on the fact that you were with a certain party in the electorate that you were voted in. But being an independent is just the same as switching parties anyway here. Like, if someone crosses the floor and says, I now become an independent, and they vote with the opposition, they're as good as being in the opposition anyway, if you know what I mean. Because their vote will count for them, particularly in very tight held seats, like parties. Like if you've got a minority government, one or two people crossing the floor means a big thing. Crossing the floor here means switching parties. It does similar here, but it only means on that vote. You can then elect to be an independent. I sat down with psychologists about 15 years ago, and this questionnaire that they drew up was based on the fact of what people thought they were, like whether they were a liberal or whether they were a Democrat, say in the US, and they took this test and had all fundamental values of life, like women's rights, racism, a whole pile of things. And out of 100 people that they did the first survey with, and they were 50 Republican and 50 Democrats, well, more than half of each were not. They were actually the opposite. They just had strong views on certain subjects which swayed them to be a Democrat, if you like. But a lot of their views were more right-wing and not centrist. In fact, made them, on paper, a Republican. And what I garnished from that is that all people are fairly similar in their beliefs. They do have one or two subjects that they're very fervent on, and that usually sways them in their political vote. But it doesn't mean you're a Democrat or a Republican. This is the bit I don't get about Americans. They're either die-hard red or die-hard blue, when in fact their opinions spread out in a spreadsheet shows that that's not true. No, it's the same here. Being a Liberal in Australia means you're conservative, right-wing. And being Labor means you're not. But in Australia, politics is fairly centrist. There's no massive right-wing or massive left-wing. There is the Green Party, which I'm sure you have as well. I actually spoke to a Green Party representative about 4 years ago. And I said, everything that you talk about makes you a Labor candidate, other than saving the trees, car emissions, solar energy, wind. I said, other than that, you are basically a Labor Party. And they went, well, no, really, we're independent, we're green. And I said, no. Take away the green side of your party. What else do you support? And they said, well, we support most of what the Labor Party does. I said, righto. So you're just sort of left wing of Labor. The National Democratic Party here is really to the left. Well, even some people on the right, if you like, conservative politicians, have left-wing views on certain subjects. We had a Prime Minister, Mr Turnbull, at one stage, who was the leader of the Liberal Party or Conservative Party. And yet he had very leftist wings when it came to things like women's right and right to an abortion, solar energy, a lot of things that you'd see to the far left, and yet he was the leader of the Liberal Conservative Party. And they eventually booted him out because they didn't like some of his liberal views. But politics is for each and every country citizens to decide who they vote for. But logic tells me, in a very compounding way, like there is no way out of this. I can't see America not being led by Joe Biden from the 21st of January of next year. I just can't see it. Well, pure socialism in its essence, and I mean this, in its essence, is not a bad thing, but it never works out that way. Every country that's basically gone down true socialism has ended up having dictators. Hello, Scarlett. And they're just facts what happens. Because if everyone's going to be fair and equal and get a justifiable response from the wealth of each country to each citizen, it'd be a wonderful thing. But greed kicks in, and a lot of socialist leaders become authoritarian and dictators. Communism only works if you're on top of the tree. Like I say, I can't put my finger on a system that everyone would accept. I have fundamental beliefs that everyone is equal. You are only better than someone when you better yourself, not them. And there's a huge difference when that. In other words, I won't stand on people to get to the top. I'll stand on my own 2 feet, work really hard, and achieve what I can on my own without crushing people on the way. Now, does that make me a socialist? I don't think so. It makes me a fairly reasonable bloke who doesn't put other people down to go forward. I work hard. But people today, we've got to be honest with ourselves. People today have it pretty easy compared to the hundreds of years that have passed. Can you imagine, and say we lived in Yorkshire in 1500s, and I go up to the local leader of the town and say, look, I'd like a pension, free health, and discount on the horses sort of thing, taking me around town. Can I have that, please? No. No, it doesn't make me a capitalist at all. And like I say, capitalism only works for the people that have got the capital. And I mean real money, not play money. Working hard is rewarded. It's as simple as that. Not working is possible these days because of the social safety nets, but Canada's the same. A little bit similar in the US, definitely in Australia. You never run out of unemployment in Australia. There is no 99 weeks. It's forever. There are families that are generational in this country, from granddad down to grandson, who have never worked, and they still get paid. Yes, that's true, but you see my point, VMAC. Today, you could say you were someone that lived in a van, and you end up with no money on the street, and your van's burning, and you're sitting under a bridge. Well, someone will find you and feed you, maybe take you into a shelter. That wouldn't have happened in the 15th century. You would have just died. So the safety nets, well, I'm talking about the Western culture. In some countries, that's still the same thing. You don't work in sub-Sahara Africa, you die. You don't work in India, you die. Indonesia, you don't work, you die. In Singapore, there is no social security. So it's like, well, in the UK, you can be unemployed forever and sign up each Tuesday morning or whatever it is, and you get paid. Not much, but you get paid. Same in Australia. And there are safety nets, like there are, what do they call them here? They're not food stamps. You get a certain proportion of your electricity paid. A lot of things are subsidised for unemployed and pensioners. But imagine 500 years ago, walking up to the town boss and saying, I'd like a pension, free health, and food delivered to my house. Is that okay? Swordsman, cut off his head. Problem solved. So if you talk about socialism, and if you're an American, you need to understand the fabric of America is very much socialism. There are a lot of things, like in the early days in America, you didn't have any police. That was a socialistic idea brought forward. Firemen, it was a socialistic idea. Lots of ideas in America come from the basis of socialism. It's as simple as that. So the rich didn't need any police until the poor started attacking them. But there's a lot of fundamental fact. Look, I'll give you an idea. Let's be honest, from the 50s probably to the 90s around the Western world, unions were a really big thing. Really big thing. They gave people security. They gave them a pension. If you said, what is that? Well, that's a socialistic idealism which worked. Social jobs turned into full-time jobs with a pension at the end, healthcare attached. It's all socialism. And you don't hear any Republicans scream and shout about, oh, I don't want any of that. Well, you do, and you have had it for over 50 years. So it's not like socialism does not exist in the UK, in the US. It does. But what you can evaluate through time is that when a government becomes too far right, there's a huge swing. For the last 10 years around the planet, most governments have gone far right. You just got to break down each country and look at what I'm saying. It's like an authoritarian rule in many countries got even tighter and stronger. So it's not just the US, but it's swinging rapidly back, way past the centre and going left. because that's a natural attrition of what happens. When people say, I don't like this, you have opportunity everywhere, Scarlett. You could drop me in any country. When I was a bit younger and I'd just work hard, I'd get by. I'd pay my taxes, I'd save my money, whether it was pesos, dollars, or whatever it was, it wouldn't matter. It's not the country that makes people, it's the people that make the country. Like Australia, and the UK now to a great deal of extent, and the US definitely. You could just put US and Australia in a category. We built our countries on thousands of people coming from hundreds and hundreds of countries. So that's it. That's how our countries were built. So we have an obligation to continue the immigration policies that built our countries. Obviously under a tight rein of how many? Venezuela. Well, there's plenty of opportunity in Venezuela. If you've got money or oil, you'll do quite well. But like I say, each country has to decide for themselves who they want to have run their country. We're very brutal in Australia. If someone's not doing their job, they get booted. It's like a national movement. People say, I've had enough of this bloke, and they get rid of him. Scarlett Butler, are you American Indian? Oh la la la, oh la la la, oh la la, Wampanoag. I think Venezuela is a beautiful country, for sure. Most countries are beautiful, you've got to be honest. Yeah, I've looked at Canada for many, many years and thought, yeah, I could live in Canada. It wouldn't be much different than Australia. We're very tolerant to an extent, like Canadians. You can stand on our toes a few times, and then the next time we just take your head off, which I think is very much like a Canadian attitude. In fact, before we left the UK VMAC, we had a choice of going to Canada, where we've got relatives, or Australia. And we all decided to go to Australia. We figured as we were leaving Heathrow Airport in 4 feet of snow, why we would land in Canada with 4 feet of snow as well. The only difference, I think, between the two countries is that we have a hot summer, mild winter. I call it cold winter. You tell me I'm a wimp, VMAC, because it's like, right now it's 16 degrees and I think it's a bit cool. I've got my dressing gown on. We've got people we know that live half in Canada and half in Australia. Other words, they go back during summertime, which is not long in Canada, and they come back here around about April at the end of the heat. They get the best of both worlds, but obviously they have money. Right back in my ancestry, definitely there's Scandinavian Viking blood. We're from Yorkshire, and I know I can go back to 1066, but other people have done the genealogy. It's like we're definitely Vikings from heritage from Scandinavia and all the areas around. Yeah, I'll take that smirk off your face there, VMAC, if you're here in February. You'd still have a T-shirt on, but you'd be on the ground and we'd be hosing you down. Like one of them whales stranded on the beach. And we have to put you in the freezer for a couple of hours to thaw, to come down in temperature. I've had Canadian friends that came out in the late 80s and they worked with me. And it was November through to April. And I'm telling you, that as soon as they got to around 35, 36 degrees, they were dying. But it'd be the same in reverse. Yeah, anywhere down that line, you're going to be in a Viking. If you're Irish, Welsh, English, German, not so much France, a bit of France, but you're definitely Germanic, and you're also going to have Viking. The beauty of where I live in Western Australia, VMAC, it's fairly dry, like it gets down to about 5% humidity when it reaches 43, 44. It's very dry. But you'd love the beaches because we've got them everywhere. We're a big island. We have 55,000 kilometres of beach, and you can have some all to yourself. Yeah, we lived in Sydney for a while, which is 4.5 million people. Houses too close together. Lots of bitumen and concrete. And it can be like a sea breeze kits in summer in Sydney. It could be just 30 degrees, but it feels like 45 with the humidity. It's nearly unbearable. Actually, we knew a guy that actually came from Ireland and hooked up with a Canadian girl, and they travelled Australia. And they travelled all around the coastline. And I don't know if they ever did a book, but I know they did a lot of videos. And it's just beautiful, the coastline here, obviously. Tin Man burned down. Bully's a wrench. Well, you've got to remember that Joni will be remembered as the only person that makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches without bread. Because there's definitely a few sheep that have gone missing in the top paddock. Let's be kind about this. I've not seen her channel. I've seen a video where she was on screaming at her mum and her mum screaming at her or something, and I'm thinking, geez, avoid that one. I don't know why Bully always wants wrenches. I know that it gives him the power to be a prick on occasions, obviously, but it's like a lot of time wasting goes on. Yes, it's like I'm opening a bag of chips, VMAC, and it's just air. The packaging looked okay, but there was nothing inside. I hope that maybe some channels just start doing content and not have thousands of people hanging around arguing at each other over despots. Because that's what I usually use YouTube for, other than chatting to you guys on occasions. I watch cooking videos, history videos, all that sort of thing. I imagine he does, VMAC. Well, you do have the power here. You're an executive officer in the village of seeds. And I wouldn't stop you doing anything. I'm probably the only person in these channels that you all visit to where I really mean that I don't care if there's only 5 people here or 10 people or 20. I care not. I had some people come in a few months ago saying, I can get you 100 views. I said, I don't want them. Thanks anyway. So that is true. I'd rather speak to the regular people I speak to. We don't always agree, but that's okay. And when it boils down to it, you have a far more interesting conversation than just arguing and stuff. Yeah, you make him suffer. Come here, bully, just for a moment. Doop. When I saw him in the capri, Bully was in the capri outfit. That's really sort of a lady's costume, a capri. What are you talking about, Scarlett? It is, it's an old lady's. It's a bit like the caftan. Men don't wear caftans, women do. Men don't wear capris. It's like pyjamas, basically. Day wear for women. Elvis was wearing them, okay. Well, he's a bit girlish. Probably suits him. It's just ridiculous. I mean, women wear them and they get away with it, but men would look silly. Peach colour, oh my God. I imagine that if you did buy a capri suit, they used to be called, that there'd probably be like pyjamas in a hospital. There'd be an opening at the back, just for easy access. Just saying. You still love Abby. Okay. Yep. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I've ever seen a man wear a capri. Never. I think it's starting to rain again. Yeah, remember the caftans of the 70s and 80s, VMAC? They were really popular, even with younger women, actually. But they soon sort of died out. They never sort of hung around after the 80s. Lots of things disappeared into the 90s, like the women's bouffant hairstyles. I don't know what made women think that that looked okay. You know what I'm talking about? Shoulder pads and bouffant hairstyles on women. What the hell was that all about? I remember asking my sister once, what's the shoulder pads for? She said, I'm going to play gridiron. I said, fair enough. No, really, what are they for? She said, I don't know. They're in the bloody thing already. A hair here closer to God. It just always looked silly to me. Seriously. I like hairstyles of women, but, you know, the ones that I don't like, probably from the 60s, was the beehive. You'd remember that. That looked stupid. A lot of things were inserted on ladies' heads to make them go even higher. And the bouffants of the 80s. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go and watch an episode of Dallas, and you'll know what I'm talking about. The bouffants of the 80s women hairstyles. Weird. I should tell Stitching Girl about your channel. She's really above ground gardening. Yeah, that sounds good. I enjoy gardening to the extent that I believe that my gardening has always helped my cooking. If you grow well, you generally eat well. Yeah, they were okay. 50s and 60s. A lot of there's sort of, I don't know if you would agree with me, but from about 2010 onwards, a lot of guys and girls, it's become more unisex than ever, but they're sort of anime. You know the cartoon anime characters with the hair that sort of droops across the face, and that's everywhere. Like that is the new style, the sort of anime look. Everyone wore curls going to proms, that's for sure. I just, like I say, if someone said to me, here's a woman wearing the same dress, shoes, nice figure, and then we're going to do 10 types of hairstyles, I'd probably say, yeah, that's right, it's good. What's that thing on her head now? Oh, it's a bouffant style. No, I don't like that. It just didn't work for me at all. So, do you give you my idea, my analogy of the 80s women hairstyles that were bouffantish? It was like they put a bowl over a woman's head with self-raising flour in it. And then after 3 days, they took it off and bouffants! Something happened. I've only ever used shampoo. I only wash my hair about 3 times a week. I grew with Flintstones, I think he was saying. But like I say, I'm not a fashion guru at all. I just know what I like and don't like. And if that's politically incorrect, I'm sorry, but the women's bouffant hairstyles of the 80s, it lasted to about the mid-80s, I think, in Australia. But it was like, what the hell happened there? I think, this is just me, it sounds a little sexist, but I like women with longer hair than shorter hair. I don't dislike women with short hair, don't get me wrong. I just think it's more feminine. I like women to be feminine. Yeah, like I say, some of the hairstyles that just work for me is natural hair. If it's a natural wave, they don't fart around with it. It's got a nice wave on it. I think treatments on hair for women are horrendous. Some of the things that they put themselves through. It's just my opinion. All that chemical and crap going on there. Silly marketing. So it is. And we've had terrible cases in Australia in recent years where people got burnt. Morale, if you could speak English, please. If you can't, VMAC is an officer of the law and unlawful processes. So if you can't speak English, you will have to leave. Nothing against you. But yeah, no, I think if it's natural, it's cool. I had a friend that had something come down the side next to her eye, then onto her cheekbone. It ended up bleaching her skin, and it never went away. So it's terrible. And it's not, she didn't have colour, it was treatment of some sort. So they said, was it the colour that they put in? They said, no. Some sort of, I don't know what that means, a treatment, but it burnt her skin, literally. Yeah, we're saying hello to you, Morel, and welcome. But yeah, like I say, putting yourself through all that, I don't get it, to be honest. But I will be going to bed myself shortly. The wife will already be in nod, sleeping. I don't mind those sort of colours. A lot of women do that, that's fine, but it's usually a vegetable-based colouring. that goes away after a little while. But in time, I'm pretty sure I eventually will lose my hair. That's how it works. We don't have any choice in this. I could always make my hair a bit like Donald Trump's though, just sort of a male bouffance. Sound like a day out, Mac. Are we listening? Biting the eggs to the shoe. Very nice. Bit la-di-da there. Cream puffs. Who you got coming round for afternoon tea? The Queen, Scarlett? Or maybe Megan? Anyway, I am going to go to bed. It's been nice catching up with all of you. And hello, Morel. See, eventually all this will go. I hope you have a good day, wherever you are. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, watching the biggest debate of the election, Scarlett. It's far bigger than the candidates that you saw last week. This will be very interesting. Anyway, until next time we meet, I hope you have a good day, good night, wherever you are, and we'll catch all of you another time. Good night.